Welcome to our program this week. Today we are looking at a concept of faith and charity. Oftentimes people separate them, but we understand this as what it means to unite what we believe and what we love. Each of us can think and believe one thing, but unless those thoughts and beliefs are used to love God and others and are manifest together in the world, it doesn't matter what we say we believe.
Eternal Father, strong to save, who dost restrain the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep its own appointed limits keep. Oh, hear us when we cry to Thee for those in peril on the sea. O Savior, whose almighty word the winds and waves submissive heard, who walkest on the foaming deep, and calm amid its rage did sleep. O hear us when we cry to Thee for those in peril on the sea. O sacred Spirit, who didst brood upon the chaos dark and rude, and baked its angry tumult cease, and gave us light and life and peace. O hear us when we cry to Thee for those in peril on the sea. Almighty Lord of love and power, a brethren shield in dangers all, from rock and tempest, fire and cold, protect them wheresoe'er they go, and ever let their eyes to Thee add hymns of praise from land and sea.
A reading from 1 Samuel chapter 17, verses 32 through 49. David said to Saul, "Let no one's heart fail because of Goliath. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine." Saul said to David, "You're not able to go against this Philistine, to fight with him, for you are just a boy, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and whenever a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went after it, struck it down, rescuing the lamb from its mouth. And if it turned against me, I would catch it by the jaw, strike it down, and kill it. Your servant has killed both lions and bears. And this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, since he has defied the enemies of the living God." David said, "The Lord, who saved me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, will save me from the hand of this Philistine." So Saul said to David, "Go, and may the Lord be with you." Saul clothed David with his armor. He put a bronze helmet on his head and clothed him with a coat of mail. David strapped Saul's sword over the arm, and he tried in vain to walk, for he was not used to them. Then David said to Saul, "I cannot walk with these, for I am not used to them." So David removed them. Then he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from the water and put them in his shepherd's bag. In the pouch, his sling was in his hand, and he drew near the Philistine. The Philistine came on and drew near to David. with his shield bearer in front of him. When the Philistine looked and saw David, he disdained him, for he was only a youth, ruddy and handsome in appearance. The Philistine said to David, "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine said to David, "Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and to the wild animals of the field." But David said to the Philistine, "You come to me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This very day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head, and I will give the dead body of the Philistine army this very day to the birds of the air and the wild animals of the earth, so that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and that all this assembly may know that the Lord does not save by sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hand." A reading from Mark chapter 4, verses 35 to 41. On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with them in a boat, just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern asleep on the cushion. And they woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" He woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." Then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. He said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great awe and said to one another, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" A reading from True Christianity, paragraph number 385. The angel said, "Instead of faith and goodwill, think of light and heat, and you will see them clearly. Faith, in its essence, is truth that relates to wisdom. Goodwill, in its essence, is affection that relates to love. In heaven, truth related to wisdom is light, and affection related to love is heat. The light and the heat that angels live in are, in essence, exactly this. As a result, you can clearly see what faith is when it is separated from goodwill, and what it is when it is united to goodwill. When faith is separated from goodwill, it is like the light in winter. When faith is united to goodwill, it is like the light in spring. The light in winter, which is a light separated from heat, is united to coldness. Therefore, it is completely strips trees of their leaves, kills grass, makes ground as hard as rock, and freezes water. Light in the spring, which is a light united to heat, causes trees to grow, first producing leaves, then flowers, and finally fruit. It unlocks and softens the ground so that it produces grass, plants, flowers, and shrubs, and it melts ice so that the water flows from its sources again.
Through good report and evil Lord, still guided by thy faithful word, as death a buckler and a sword, we follow thee. In silence of the lonely night, in the full glow of day's clear light, from life's strange wanderings, dark or bright, we follow thee. Strengthened by thee, we forward go, midst marvelous scoff of friend or foe, through pain or ease, through joy or woe, we follow thee. O Master, point thou out the way, nor suffer thou our steps to stray. Divine the path that leads to day, we follow thee. Thou hast gone before our face, thy footsteps on the way we trace. Proclaim us by thy grace, we follow thee.
Today we're talking about faith and charity. So often you hear, and especially in Swedenborg's day, you hear people talk about needing to believe the right things. The idea that, well, that faith alone saves. And while I agree with that in many ways, I agree with it with a little caveat. What does it mean to truly have faith? Swedenborg would argue to truly be a person of faith not only means to think something, but to do it as well, to live it, to have the actions you do day to day be filled with it. So being able to quote scripture, being able to quote doctrine is meaningless unless the way in which you relate to your neighbor, the way in which you relate to God, is influenced by that thinking and that understanding. This is what Swedenborg is talking about when he's talking about the idea that you have light in winter, yet the light of winter, still everything is frozen and cold, yet the light of summer is warm. Both lights you can see by. But one nourishes the body and the ground and the whole earth in order to produce vegetation. The other is cold, distant, and removed. What does it mean for a person to say, I'm a disciple of God, and then when they turn around, not listen to you, not hear you, not be willing to talk to you, invite you into their heart? What does it mean for us as disciples to claim that we believe that all of our neighbors deserve love, but not see them as people who need love on our day-to-day activities? What does it mean for us to turn a blind eye to the person we're walking by, to the person who maybe is on the other end of a phone call? What does it mean for us to claim to be disciples and Christians if we are removed in that way. One might also say, what does it mean for a church? To be a church, if it has things that it claims it believes, and yet those beliefs don't really matter to the church. So often, churches can be full of people who are willing to sign the bylaws and make faith claims and do certain things, but at the end of the day, does the church welcome the stranger? Does the church love the person who they don't know? So often we put up barricades and barriers, and we say, well, this person doesn't believe the way that we believe, therefore we are not going to care about them or love them. What does church membership even mean? Church membership for so many people is really a human expression of who we think is in the club and outside of the club, when in actuality, that's not for us to decide. So what is church membership? Well, church membership can easily just be hearkened to a group of people who espouse a certain belief, a certain understanding of what the church is, and they come together. And they come together not to create a social club, but to live the claims of faith that they make together. What are the fundamentals of your faith? This church posits that one of its main fundamental ideas is the idea of use. Now, the idea of use is exactly what we're talking about today, the combination of faith and charity. What Swedenborg's concept of use is an understanding that no matter what we do, no matter where we go, love is inside what we can do. Well, love doesn't have to be inside. We can choose selfishness. We can choose to go to work just because we want the paycheck so we can go on the big vacation. We can choose to spend our energy just in a way of trying to get self-gain. Or what we can do is say, I understand that I've been given unique gifts by God that are going to connect and work together in the world. I understand that what I am called to do is to bring those unique gifts to everyone who I meet. This is what Swedenborg would claim our Bible readings are all about today. The Philistine Goliath is a person who is wise in the ways of the world. He's an experienced veteran. He knows all about war and all about fighting, but in the end, he doesn't have the right faith, a faith that calls him into right and good and true service. Meanwhile, you have the disciples on the boat who are trying to cross the river and become so overcome with fear that they don't realize what's happening. And they get confused at who the Lord is because he's able to control the wind and the sea. All of these things are speaking to us inside. What does it mean for us to respond to the world with fear, with control, with power, with being afraid? All of these things are responses when in the end, what we need to be doing is simply asking ourselves the question, I am in the midst of this mighty battle, whatever it might be. That mighty battle might just be going to work. That mighty battle might be going to the grocery store. It might just be being on the phone while you're at home. But the mighty battle is the fight between selfishness and love. And we can claim we know something, but if in the end we claim to be disciples, we claim to be followers of the Lord who taught us to reach out to love to all people, but in the end we turn around and are mean or nasty. Maybe we stab people in the back. Maybe we don't tell the truth. Maybe we create stories in order to make ourselves feel better. Maybe there's all different sorts of things that we can do. Maybe we try and make ourselves better than another person by cutting them down a notch, by pointing out something that we don't like. All of these things are actually what's going on with Goliath, right? This is Goliath insulting David. David's response is to not get armored up, is to not try and be something he isn't, but to just simply say, I am here with faith and I am going to prevail because I am here with the Lord as my guide. Each of us have that opportunity so many times in a given day. Each of us have the opportunity to be confronted with challenges, with difficulty, with questions, with concerns, and to have faith in the Lord that the Lord will provide, and not blind faith in the sense of, oh, if I just sit here, everything I want is going to fall into my lap. But we have the ability to respond to hate with love. We have the ability to use our gifts to make the world better. And if we simply approach every situation not as, how can I point out others' failings? How can I point out others' shortcomings? But what can I bring to make this situation better? What can I do to bring more love? Just bringing understanding isn't enough. The understanding has to be tied with love. We all can bring opinions. We can all bring judgments. We can all prognosticate what we think others are going to do, and we can all criticize each other. But if we're doing that, we're missing love. We're missing that moment that faith is united to charity. We're missing the moment that separates Goliath from David, and David's simple piece of picking up those stones from the water and being willing to use them in that way, being able to face the big monster in the way that he does, is him having confidence that uniting his love for the Lord and his love for his neighbor with what he knows is enough. The disciples were scared for themselves in the boat. They were scared that the boat was going to sink. They were not, at that point, focused on the Lord. When the Lord awakes, just like when the Lord awakes in us, and we understand the Lord's presence with us, that is what brings the calm. Simple truths, simple goodness, being expressed in simple ways. This is what the core of uniting faith and charity is. It's not in feeling aggrieved. It's not in being better than other people. It's simply in having the peace of the Lord with you to calm the frustration, to calm the anger, and to admit that we are not in control. I hope this week, when confronted by some form of difficulty, you can remember this. You can look to the Lord as maybe being asleep in your boat and wake him up. Help calm the seas by uniting what we know and the Lord, and through the Lord, our neighbor.